Alright, so I talked about action movies earlier today, and since I talked about them also in the context of like women in action movies, I feel like I should talk about the Hunger Games. You know, so that the conglomerate doesn't start to attack the movies. You know, I kind of found them like I couldn't read the Hunger Games, the first book, like when I first started to read it. I got to the point like in the book where it talks about explains what the Hunger Games are and how the kids have to kill each other and that kind of thing. And I just kind of was horrified, and I stopped. And actually, I didn't know anything about them. And then I think it was the first couple movies had already gotten into the theaters, and were even like being shown on television by then. By the time I actually like picked up the books, I started reading it, and I couldn't read it, and then I read it later. 233 DRE. Yeah, it's not flattering. I don't find it at all flattering. I just want you to leave me alone. I wish I just can't even describe how much I wish the entire thing had never happened. Yeah. So, but I think the books have another message. You know, they're not just about people killing each other. I guess I'm not all that excited about having them on the Family Channel. I mean, I think they ought to be like at least PG-13, if not like, you know, R-rated movies, because they have like some pretty graphic violence. You know, and I don't think it's good for kids to get so used to it. Although, of course, you know, video games are incredibly graphic, incredibly violent. Lots of things on television are incredibly graphic and incredibly violent. So a lot of things on television I just can't watch. They're unwatchable as far as I'm concerned. Really, I hate them. And it seems like it's just kind of gotten worse and worse over time. But as far as like, you know, the books are concerned, if you read what the author says after the last book, I think it's, you know, when she's writing about why she wrote them. I mean, she had a reason for writing them. So there's a political, social reason that she wrote them, which is to talk about authoritarian governments and to talk about I think the quality of human life and people being able to make their own decisions and freedom. That's what it's about. And then if you actually read the books, death is not considered, is not treated in this very casual way. Like even near the end of the first book, when Katniss has to shoot the last contestant other than Peeta, so that he falls over the edge of the cornucopia and then gets taken into the cornucopia by the mutant dogs, right? And then he just gets tortured for hours and hours, and then finally they take off, and the wolves take off, dog wolves, whatever they are, takes off, and then but he's still alive after they've been like gnawing at him for like all these hours, you know, while all of Pan Am watches as part of, you know, the thing which is supposedly entertainment, but is also a form of government control. And then she shoots him, right? She shoots him with an arrow to put him out of his misery, and she even has a feeling for him at the end. You know, I mean, he's like basically he's begging for mercy to be just like put out of his misery, and she does, right? And he's the most vicious, was the most aggressive, was the one with the least conscience throughout the entire book of all of them, really. And yet, you know, there's that scene at the end of the book, like near the end of the book, where she does this for him, and then there's other discussions throughout the book about how they recognize this is all a manipulation. 332 DJ7. You know, it's about making people feel afraid. Yeah. 332 DJ7. It's, you know, the entire Hunger Games are about making people feel afraid, about making the entire population understand that the government has total control over their lives. You know, I mean, it's not violence just for the sake of violence, and I think that's important. I think it's an important distinction to make. These books have an intellectual and moral basis that, I mean, pretty much every other action movie doesn't, really, for the most part. Especially the ones starring men. I'm sorry, but that's true.